Misconceptions abound when it comes to getting out of a speeding fine. Let's try to separate the myth from the truth and see if there are any real loopholes to get out of paying. Let's jump in with the first misconception. Whilst a lot of the time a tolerance for speeding is applied, speeding is still speeding, and travelling just 1 mile an hour over the limit is still an offence. So while the often quoted 10% plus 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, or 35 in a 30, 46 in a 40 and so on, while this tolerance is commonly applied, it's not always. Common practices are in no way the same as actual law. For instance, when a police officer uses a mobile speed camera, they could enforce a different level of the rules. Many people wrongly believe that mobile speed camera vans need to be visible to the driver in order for a ticket to count. However, there's no actual UK law to state that a speed camera van must be visible to motorists. On the whole, speed camera van operators don't usually make themselves hidden, because their visible presence is known to deter speeding and help to make the road safer. So you'll usually see a speed camera off in the distance. If you're paying attention, that is. The choice of where to place the van is usually dictated by where incidents have occurred due to people breaking the speed limit. If they end up hidden, it's likely by chance due to the surroundings rather than an actual intentional sneaky tactic. Another misconception is that a van can only monitor and enforce speed on the same side of the road that they're parked on. In reality, it doesn't matter exactly where the van is parked, it can still identify motorists speeding on your side of the road, with some of the laser systems able to read speeds from a mile away. And lastly, there's the misconception that the police need a clear photo of your face whilst driving in order to prosecute. However, road laws make it that the registered vehicle owner has the duty of identifying who was driving at the time, meaning the police don't need to identify the driver, just the vehicle. So with those misconceptions out the way, let's look at the process for being issued a speeding ticket. Firstly, you must be issued with a Notice of Intended Prosecution, or NIP. Only after you've received an NIP can you then be issued the speeding fine, or to give it its proper name, a fixed penalty notice. Parts of this process have time limits, which, if exceeded, become a convenient loophole for not having to pay. If you're pulled over by a police officer for speeding, then they can give you the NIP verbally. But if you're caught by a camera, then the NIP will be posted out to whoever's the registered owner of the vehicle. These postal NIPs must arrive within 14 days from the date of the alleged speeding offence. It has been known for the police to send out the Notice of Intended Prosecution late. Things like bank holidays or a postal strike could delay the NIP from reaching you. If your NIP wasn't sent within 14 days of the offence, then the police can no longer prosecute. This means you cannot be served with a fixed penalty notice and therefore don't have to pay a fine or accept penalty points onto your licence. The police won't necessarily know that it arrived late, so be sure to send it back as out of time. Otherwise, you risk being summoned to a magistrate's court for failing to comply. However, if the NIP was served within those 14 days, then there's a second time limit that the police need to adhere to. They only have 6 months to issue you the actual fine, the fixed penalty notice. So if there's a delay sending you your fixed penalty notice, then you might not have to pay. However, as we're dealing with a much more significant time frame, this one is less likely to occur. But if your fixed penalty notice did arrive late, then like late NIP, you'll need to let the police know why it is you're not going to pay. Opting to attend a speed awareness course can be a good way to get out of paying. You'll usually be offered the chance to attend one of these if it's your first offence and you were only slightly over the speed limit. These courses will chew up a day of your time, they will require you to get yourself there, and they're hardly a barrel of laughs. But they are usually considered preferable to paying a fine. However, it's up to the police's discretion whether or not to offer you the chance to attend, and you can't ask to be put on one. Plus, you're only a first-time offender once. If you choose to pay the fine instead of attending, and then later get caught speeding again, don't think that the course is going to be offered to you a second time. Aside from these two loopholes, there's very little else that will get you out of paying a speeding ticket if the offence was genuine. In some circumstances, you might be able to argue that there was no legal notice of the speed limit for the road. However, recent campaigns like Streetlights Mean 30 are making these excuses harder to use. You might be able to claim that the speed camera was faulty or miscalibrated. However, it can be very difficult to prove this, as the police don't need to release their evidence to you unless the matter goes to court. Even though you might wish to contest the fine in court and have every right to do so, it can be very difficult to win because they only need to prove that you exceeded the speed limit briefly. You could hire an expensive lawyer or barrister to argue your case in court, and many celebrities have done just this successfully. But it's still not guaranteed, and it's not something that everyone can afford to do. And be warned, an unsuccessful speeding fine challenge is likely to result in an even bigger fine. However, if you think the offence wasn't genuine, say you weren't the driver, or your car had been stolen, or your vehicle was mistakenly identified as speeding, then it could be worth contesting the fine. In these circumstances, you may find that a speed camera photo that shows that you weren't the driver, or that someone was using your reg on another car, that speed camera photo could be a very helpful thing indeed. If you want to challenge a ticket, or you're worried that a fine is about to land you in trouble, then a popular option is to consult a solicitor for help. There's many online solicitors that work out cheaper and easier than meeting in person. JustAnswer, for example, only costs £5 for a trial. One of my colleagues saved over £270 on a parking ticket by using their service. I've linked that offer down in the description, and if you use that, you'll also be supporting Money Nerd, so thank you.